Okay. All right. So welcome to Josh's property podcast. I'm joined today by Dominic Marcel, who are you the number one Keller Williams agent in the UK? Is it fair? Is it still the title?
I don't know, mate, to be honest. I think I was at some point, but which is great, to be honest, because it kind of fluctuates between different people. I don't even know how you would classify number one anyway. I think we've got the biggest team of self-employed agents within Keller. Whether we do the most transactions or the most instructions or have the best fee or what have you, I could not tell you.
Okay. Well, let's just say one of the top KW agents, in the UK. And Dominic owns Line Estates up in Milton Keynes, and it's his hometown. He's been there for your childhood and everything, haven't you? Not like the back of your hand. But what's interesting about Dominic is you worked over in Mayfair, didn't you? You went to Mayfair and worked for Keller Williams Prime as the market director, and then 3 years ago you went to go set up Line Estates. Nearly 4 years ago. 2019. Went into setting up his own. So my question for you is, what got you into estate agency in the first place? What sort of drew you into it initially?
My brother is probably the easiest answer. So I did my A-levels, didn't want to go to university at the time because I was absolutely sort of set on becoming a fighter pilot in the RAF, which didn't pan out. And so I decided just to take a year off. I didn't want to go to uni and just basically go for the party scene and come out with a load of debt and a degree that means nothing. So I ended up just going full time in my retail job. So I was really fortunate that the part-time job I had, there was a full-timer. He lost his job the day I got my A-level results, and they said, well, do you want to go full-time? I was like, yeah. So I ended up doing that for a year, loved it. It was great. It was very much like being at university, but being paid rather than paying, which was nice. And then that kind of 1 year turned into 2 years. And my brother, who very much was like a father figure to me growing up, was just sort of said, look, you need to think about a career. You're too intelligent and ambitious to just get wrapped up in that fun world that you're in. And he was a mortgage broker for Countrywide. And he said, why don't you come and, we're recruiting estate agents. And I laughed, frankly. I was, well, why on earth would I want to be an estate agent? And I had my arm twisted, would you believe, to go in for an interview. And bearing in mind, this was peak of the market, 2007. I walked into this huge office on this really busy road, and it was like a scene out of the Wolf of Wall Street. It was people running around, phones ringing, deals being done, and I was hooked. I was just like, I need to be within this environment. So like a lot of people, it was completely and utterly accidental.
No, I mean, like, it's good that your brother's in the business, like similar business, and I suppose he kind of encouraged you in, and it was Countrywide, wasn't it, that you went to? Yeah. And then you sort of worked your way up the ranks there, and then what sort of made you transition from Countrywide to KW? What sort of got you in there?
If I'm being really honest, it was, I think, disillusion and disappointment with the company, if I'm kind of saying how it is. I'm not, anything I say is not to try and bash, they took me from having no experience, and I am where I am because of the experience I had during that company. But when I went up to regional director level in 2016, I think it was, which is a job I'd always wanted. And, I was all about the company. And it was just a real eye-opener. The company was going through a transition at the time anyway, as the well sort of publicized Alison Platt era. But it was very much, we didn't have a job, frankly. Our job was to just make sure that other people are doing their job. But we had no tools to motivate them. It was very much just targets going up 10% every year. We give them less each year to do so. And it was just put more pressure on the staff. And having been in that role and being shielded from it, I guess, by my regional at the time, and thinking I could make a change going up to that level on why all branches don't run like how I ran my branch. And it was just, you realize your wings were clipped. And unfortunately, it was just, I kept on butting heads with my managing director. They wanted me to do certain things in line with HR, which I didn't want to do. I didn't think they were right. I didn't think they were ethical, personally. And I refused to pass on messages like cancelling annual bonuses 2 days before Christmas, even though they'd worked all year from them. It was just, I said, it doesn't sit right with me. And I'm not a yes man. I will not just do what you tell me to do. And I had a long, hard look in the mirror, frankly. And I sort of said, well, look, you are employed by them. You are selling your time to them for a set amount of money. You can't just sit here and moan about them, but take their salary. So it was either a case of shut up and get on with it or leave. And I decided to do the latter because I just didn't see a future for myself there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge company, and I suppose there's like layers of management, and it's
layers,
layers and layers and layers, and like you can't really make a massive difference like as one person. Or make any sort of quick decisions.
It was all about, it was understanding that it isn't about an individual person. It was the fact the company is structured that way for a reason, and you can't undo that structure. There was departments for departments for departments for departments, because the idea was it was all about volume transaction rather than quality of transaction. And it was very much this, I suppose, naive, very evangelic kind of view that I have of, if every branch worked like mine and we were all about the customer, then we'd be so much better. But there was no interest in that. It was just, no, it's stock. There are properties. We'll do national price reduction days because we need more money into the business. It wasn't about the client. It was almost like we were selling cans of beans on a shelf. And that's not what this industry is about to me. I'm not saying that that's wrong, that's their way of doing it, but it isn't my way of doing it.
Yeah. It's a machine. And I suppose if you're not part of that machine, then, you've got to look at what other options there are, I guess. I tried working for some of the bigger agency in my past, and I couldn't do it. So I was just like, you got so many different KPIs, and everyone, like layers of management, like you can't breathe without someone going, oh, what's going on there then? I'm just broke. I'm just, do you know what I mean? But anyway, well, we won't go into that too much today. It's probably here all day talking about that. So let's get on to Keller Williams. So you went into, was it Ben's team, Ben Taylor, or is it Prime?
So same thing. Ben obviously was the sort of, I suppose, the CEO of KWUK, but he was the OP of the operating principal of Prime, and I went in there as what they called was the market center director, but I still prefer it to be called the team leader role. That's what it's called in America, and I think it sums up the job better than a fancy market center director title. You are
team leader
of agents. So I went there in September 18.
And then when you were running the team as the market director, like, I suppose you saw a lot of agents like new into the self-employed business, because I suppose it was quite new back then. Like, how did you go about helping them get off the ground and everything? How did you find that experience?
I'll be honest, to start with, I suppose I had, going from working in Milton Keynes and surrounding areas to then all of a sudden, commuting to Berkeley Street every day, I had major imposter syndrome. It's
not funny, really, but yeah.
And it was very much, how can I help these guys? Because most of the agents back then, most of the agents were powered by, there's very few agents trading as Keller Williams. It was more of a network of kind of normal high street agents. So you had companies like Walton Estates with Simon Dresden, had his office in Knightsbridge. You had people like George Verdis at London Executive with his office in Marylebone, and others obviously as well. And so I felt like they were more experienced than me, because they had their own businesses. I came from an employed job, and now I'm going to now teach these guys how to
self-employed people.
And I think it took me a while to get over that, but then I realized where I could add value, which was that, it doesn't really matter what the price point is you're dealing with. If it's humans that own properties and humans that are selling them, then it's pretty much the same sort of traits. And I've always been really into, the psychology of selling and marketing and things. So it was really trying to get people to understand that. And I think naturally I'm a very learning based person. I've got quite a big growth mindset. And so diving into a lot of the Keller literature and training, being able to almost regurgitate that to the guys, but in bite-sized pieces, that with language that actually resonates with them, I think is a big part of the value that you can do in that role. It's not necessarily telling someone to, you coming up with all these brand new ideas. It's just getting them to understand how it can implement their business. And I think one of the biggest things I probably did for them was getting them to understand the difference between their prospecting and their marketing, and about the language that they're using, and farm areas, and especially things like social media. I mean, I did social media classes for them on all the different platforms, from LinkedIn to Facebook to Instagram and things. And that's probably the areas that they they're an admission, they needed that help the most. They knew how to sell properties. They needed my help to get them in front of more clients.
Lead gen. Yeah.
And that's something as sad as it sounds, I love lead gen. I know everyone hates lead gen, but I love it. It's like a game to me. It's a case of, it's something that you can never master. You always have, because the world's constantly changing and there's so many different things at work. And I just think I find it fun, because that's when you're really competing. Other agents, they're not your enemy, they're your opponent. There's a big difference. You're not going out to kind of bury them, but it's like if you're playing a football match, right? Your opponent's at that time.
Yeah.
And so taking that competitive spirit into, how do I make sure that I'm going out to the same valuations that other people are going out to, or only I'm going out to them, for me is the really fun part of what we do as a business. That's why I look at us as more of a marketing industry as opposed to a sales industry.
Definitely. I mean, I think that is the business really, because like, if you don't like lead gen, you're basically saying, I don't like estate agency, because without lead gen, you haven't got any business.
But it's just business full stop, right? And it's just so, growing an estate agency business is no different to growing a recruitment business or growing a florist business. It's just your basic principles. Yes, you've got to provide good service, you've got to have a good product, and you've got to make sure that loads of people know about you. It's not that complicated when you break it down. And so any business needs to learn how to lead gen. And so you can take inspiration from lots of businesses, not just from other estate agent. You can look at agents in the US. They're a hell of a lot better than we are at doing all those sort of things, because it's much more dog eat dog. You can represent a client as a buyer, as a seller. So it's a case of just making sure you're that person's go-to, whereas here,
you're stuck to them.
Not like that.
No.
So, but then there are other companies which are phenomenal at lead generating in this country, like car manufacturers and, phone companies like your Apples of the world and your Amazons. And we aren't playing a different game. We are playing the same game. I just feel like sometimes because of what our industry has been like for such a long period of time, it is almost sort of like, no, you just have to sit there and get on the phone and call all these cold leads. And it's just like, no, that's not.
There's so much more to
different way of doing it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the cheapest way, getting on the phones, because they don't have to, the corporate doesn't need to spend any money. But if they say, just get on the phones.
The irony is that I almost feel like it's the most expensive way of doing it, because if you're getting on the phones, you're calling a cold database. These are people whose details you already have and you've been looking after, and you may have sold their house 7 years ago and you've done absolutely nothing for the last 7 years with that data. Whereas if you actually looked after it over a period of time, you wouldn't be needing to call them in the first place. They'd be coming back to you
when they're ready. Yeah. Okay. So what's, I'll actually jump forward a little bit because we're on lead gen. So what's the number one thing, like tip you would not tip, let's say, like, what's the number one thing that you do in your business to generate more leads if it's not cold calling?
So it depends on how you want to look at it, because I think for me, we kind of split our lead gen into two elements, and there's lots of things you can do to get the leads in the first place. But then I think what we're particularly good at is maximizing the leads off of those leads. So as an example, for every valuation we book in, we typically book 2 more valuations in off of the back of that, based on
the letters. Yeah.
So it's almost like exponential growth that we have. So, you've got those two sides to it. You can, rather than trying to take on the world one person at a time, if you look at it as a row of dominoes being knocked down, that's how I wanted the business to be, so that we're working smarter rather than harder.
Yep. Yeah. So I remember you saying at the Keller Williams event, or what the one we did a couple of months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was the sold in your road, value in your road, doing all, but that's a very traditional approach. And that's something like my branch manager, who I think he's been in, he was over in Croydon, and I think he might have been ex-Countrywide actually, but he that was one of these things, like, we got to get all the letters out, like every valuation, and we used to get stuff off the back of it, but the post bill didn't. The post bill got a bit high.
Yeah, well,
we got people moaning about it.
And this is what I kind of like used to, this is the thing I bang on about, is that estate agent isn't broken in this country, it just hasn't evolved. And so a lot of the actions that you would have done in traditional agency still work today. You just have to do them in a different way. So, you know, those, we're valuing in your road, we've sold in your road, we've got buyers for your property. We do the same touch points, we just have a totally different message, which is still kind of leading along that line, but it's not about us. It's not, we are valuing in your street. If you want us to value your home, then call us. Or we've sold this, we're great. Look at our sold board. We've got buyers. We urgently require your house. There's nothing I hate more than that.
Yeah, urgently required, landlords required, or whatever. Yeah, I've seen that.
We want your home. I mean, how callous. It's just so, but you can do the same, get the same message across, but turn it around so that you're adding value to that person. You know, in case of, we're selling something in your street, rather than bragging about it, you can just spin the message and simply say, just so you know, one of your neighbors is moving, you might see some increased traffic in the area. It's not unlikely that people drive past late at night slowly. Don't panic, don't be alarmed. No one's casing the joint. It's just, this is why.
Yeah.
We know that obviously parking on the street is crucial. We'll make sure that no one blocks your driveway and all this. It's almost kind of like, we appreciate we're coming into your home, your community. We will cause as little disruption as possible. And so you're kind of showing that you're aware of these things that can really bother neighbors, but you're also making them aware that we are selling something in your road. And then the same when you've sold it. Don't say we've sold a house, we've got buyers waiting. It's a case saying, thank you so much for bearing with us. We hope it wasn't too inconvenient. Just so you know, a buyer now has been found. So thank you so much. If you're curious to know what it's sold for and what it might have done for yours, then by all means, give us a call. But we just wanted to say thank you for bearing with us. And again, it's exactly the same message, but you're just being real, you're being human. And if you do that at different touch points, again, you're kind of, one thing I really bang on about with our business is I always say, show, don't tell. Everyone tells everyone how great they are. You know, we've sold this, we've done this, or they'll tell people, I'm a personal agent, I'm a bespoke agent, I'm a whatever it is you want to call yourself. It's like, well, rather than telling people you're personal, why don't you just show them you're personal, do something personal so that they realize, Josh is he does a really personal touch for me. And just tell them, just do it. You know, how hard is it to do a bit of research on a client and get them a gift, or show some information, or there's so much information out there. It's just taking that time extra to give someone a little gift after valuation and saying, look, thanks for spending some time with me. I noticed obviously that you had all these things on your wall. Here's a book about hiking through the Peak District. You know,
wow.
Hope £5 on Amazon, straight to their house, and you've got a client for life.
Yeah. I'd never thought, I did actually think about doing that a while ago. Is getting more gifts for people. Because I do it when people buy a property, but I don't do it really for anyone else, only if I've got a kind of close relationship with the seller. And then I'll get them something, but I never really thought about doing it on valuations.
It's the best closer. I mean, it's the best close you could possibly do. It's that whole reciprocity thing. It's just showing you're different, even if it's just a thank you card. That's a big gift, but thank you for spending some time with me. If I can help it any way at all, blah blah blah. Even if you lose the instruction, just a nice thank you, because you're not going after the business, you're going after the people. And so we know that not every home is going to sell with every agent, but it's also a case of, you know, how many times have there been that you've probably viewed with a buyer, and that buyer's ended up buying a home for another agent?
Oh, for sure.
Gone, do you know what? I really wish that house was with you. Well, that's great, because you know what? They're moving into a house in your area. That's a new cheerleader for you moving into your patch.
The long game.
Everyone has to buy through you or sell through you. It's a case of that lasting reputation, that long lasting sort of, you know, relationship with them.
Long game. Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of agents don't think about that, you know, when they, you know, the classic is the completion day, the buyer has to go to the agent's office to collect the keys, and the bloke that sold it isn't even there. He's like, you know, the receptionist just goes, oh yeah, cheers, here's your keys, see you later.
But do you know what?
That's literally all they get.
Is what makes me laugh the most. You know, when you see, and it is typically traditional corporate high street agents posting on their socials, another happy completion. It's a picture of them in their office, handing keys over to a buyer and one of those home move boxes. And it's like, so basically you're bragging that another happy client, you've made them come to your office to get the keys
on moving day when they're
out of their way,
out their house. Exactly. Yeah.
You've basically given them a free box full of stuff that is not really personal in any way, shape, or form. And you think you're doing a fantastic job in doing so. It just shows what the standard is, and it's not hard to provide a much higher standard of service by doing what is actually quite basic. I'm not saying go above and beyond and buy someone a bloody car or do that. It's not about that. It's just about showing that you're different. And, like with us as an example, we do like new homes cards for the buyer when they move in. Yeah. It'd be so much easier for us just to do a big bulk of branded Lion Estates welcome to your new home cards. But we don't. We literally do an individual card for every single house using the photos of that house, which funny enough, we already have. And we just go onto Moonpig and we've got our design on there and we put the pictures of the house on and it's a welcome to your new home with a picture of their house so they know it's personal. And we handwrite a little message inside it. That takes an extra 30 seconds, but they know that it is personal to them. It's just small touches that can make all the difference. It's not the actions, it's the execution most of the time.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because that's all, I mean, look, like the personal agent thing, I think, yeah, you're right. It's what you do. It's not what you say. And I've definitely, when I'm in an evaluation, it's like, how am I different? I know how I'm different, but it's like getting that across without sort of bragging, without sounding like I'm just kind of like talking myself up, because that's what all the other agents are doing.
Yeah.
They're just bragging about, how many properties they've sold. Oh yeah, we're the market leaders. We've got X amount of offices, blah, de blah. That does my head in.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we've got 50 offices in London. So what?
Exactly.
Like, it's the individual that's selling your house.
Yeah.
It's not all the other guys which they don't talk to in the other offices that, they may have buyers for your property that not in their area. Like, doesn't even make sense.
No.
That's the funny thing. It doesn't make sense.
Well, it's one of the things I think I tried to instill into when I was at Mayfair with the agents, was that a lot of the people coming through hadn't worked in high street agency. And so for them, they had major imposter syndrome in terms of, I'm going out to these houses. They've got, Savills going out, or
the big boys,
Frank, big boys with the shiny offices and, all that sort of
impressive portfolio.
And they're going out thinking, how on earth am I going to beat those guys or to an instruction? And I said, what you don't realize is that you always have an upper hand on them. No matter how good that person is, you are offering a personalized one-on-one service to that client and they're not. So that's kind of it. End of. Yeah. And it's really easy to get over that objection in terms of, I'm not going to argue that agent you had out to see you from X estate agent is phenomenal. I completely agree. He or she is one of the best agents, in the town. But is he the one or she the one that's going to be dealing with you all the way through the process? Or is it going to be passed off to somebody else for them to do viewings that you've never met, who knows nothing about your house and all this sort of thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Well, check, ask the question. Are you going to personally deal with it for me, Josh? Actually, no, I just do the valuations. I'm sent out because I'm the best closer. And then it's going to be someone else dealing with it.
I think they try and spin it the other way though. Yeah. And they'll be like, well, we've got such a great team, we're going to look after you. We've got this person, they got that person, and together collectively we'll make it happen, and blah de blah. And they'll sell the fact that they've got a team. So we're selling a more personal service, whereas they're selling I guess a more sort of
just be cheeky. Ask the client.
That's the value they're selling.
It's almost like a classic joke, isn't it? How many estate agents does it take to sell a house? Genuinely, like how many estate agents do you think you need to sell your home? Because one should be enough, right? If that agent is good enough, I mean, how many travel agents do you have? When you go to Thomas Cook to book your holiday, do they say, well, I'm going to look at your flights, John's going to look at your hotel, Sarah's going to go and kind of deal with your transfers because we're a team and we all do this together? So I'll deal with all of it because I'm specialized in all of it.
So that makes sense in my mind.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's like they're the client themselves it's down to them to decide, isn't it? Really, it's whatever's right for them, because it's not tradition. It's not the tradition. The tradition is to go to, you know, the market leader, whoever that is in the town, and then you know, they might go, oh, who's those guys again? Oh yeah, oh, I saw him. Someone recommended them. I might get them in as well. And then you're the sort of second agent, and you've got a kind of you're competing against the establishment. But I kind of like it like that in a way, because it's like you're, you know, it's like a underdog. Yeah, exactly. It makes it more. I get a bit of a kick out of it. You know, getting the instruction.
I totally get that it's going to vary. You know, we are a cottage industry. We really are, and it will totally. I feel that I'm very fortunate being in Milton Keynes, where we're a relatively young city. Everyone here is very open to change. You know, we've got electric scooters, we've got robots that deliver foods from shops for you, we're getting driverless pods from the train. You know, we are kind of like, if it's better, I'll give it a go. But we also don't have a traditional high street like most cities do, where you're walking past Joe Bloggs estate agents every day for the last 50 years.
Just roundabouts.
So, exactly. And it's that all, when you then look at, obviously, one of the biggest drivers as to why people pick their agents, a lot of 3/4 of them, it is typically because they sold a home similar to mine.
Saw a board. Yeah.
And as we all know, boards breed boards, right? So it's that whole, great, well, if we just go back to lead generating then, and you get the first one, and then you can maximize and exponentially grow from there. It's just understanding your client at the end of the day, and tailoring. And that's the beauty that you have doing this, is that you can tailor what you do to suit that client, because isn't that the whole point in how we work anyway? You know, we are in the service industry. So what I do for my clients here will probably be not massively, but slightly different for what you do with your clients in your area, because they have different wants and needs.
Definitely. I mean, every market's different. And even if I step over into Dulwich, because I'm in Beckenham, or you know, other areas, like the client base is completely different. They have different expectations and different competition, and there's so many factors that go into that. But I believe, you know, as you say, you can, as long as you don't take on too much stuff, you can tailor it to them. And but the moment you take on too much property, like, the whole thing kind of collapses, because I can't, like, if I got 10, say for instance, that's, you know, I can manage 10. If I've got 20, then we've got problems, because I can't service every single one of those clients. So then I have to then hire someone to help me, because I haven't got enough hours in a day, even though I'll be making tons of money, but I'm going against the whole idea of a personal, you know, that's the service. So
facing the self-employed agent industry, right, is that whole, if you are as good as you claim you are on LinkedIn, and that you're as great as, you know, what have you, more people are going to find you, you're going to get more referrals, you're going to get more business. There is only a limit of so many homes that you can personally deal with and deliver the same service without it obviously going down. And this is where I find it really interesting with different models giving different advice, because there are a lot of self-employed agents that are doing really well, who are then hiring negotiators. And it's like, so are you no longer a self-employed agent? Because what you're doing is you're changing the recipe. You know, you're offering a personalized service to that client, and now what you're doing is you're outsourcing your viewings to somebody else so that you can do the valuation. So,
and the sales progression.
Now you're a traditional agent, right?
You're slowly sort of transitioning into that traditional, which is, and that's the stuff that I wanted to sort of move away from, that then you're getting drawn back into it, because as you take on more volume, you're going to have to take on more people, and then you're sort of doing the thing that you didn't want to do. So what's the solution to that? What is the solution? Where do we go? Where do we sort of overcome that?
But I've been really clear from day one on how I've wanted to grow my team, and my team are all self-employed agents. So, you know, rather than me hiring, I mean, trust me, I'd have been a hell of a lot more profitable, especially over the last 2 years, if I'd hired a neg and done this and done that. But it's not what I believe it's not what I want my business to look like. I genuinely believe I've got to the size that I am and done the level of transactions that I have because of the personal service we offer. I think it's what is best for the client. I think it's best for the agent. I will not waver from that for my own personal gain. So I've brought in central functions like administration. I have outsourced sales progression. We now have not outsourced it, but we now have sales progression taken away from me and the agents. That was a very big decision for me to make back in 2020, I think it was, because of the whole personal, it should be me start to finish. And I had a very honest chat with one of my clients who turned around and I said, this is what I'm thinking of doing. And he asked me the question of, Dom, if I'm trying to exchange and you're off doing viewings on someone else's house, I'd be really annoyed at you. And that was a big eye opener as to our job. Sales progression is a huge part of our job, but it doesn't need to be me personally doing that part. Where I'm most valuable to that client is at the very beginning stage, valuing, marketing, listing, viewings, negotiating, sale agreed. Those are my key skills. So we do outsource sales progression, but we've now got so I put together almost this central functions team, and now we can support more agents. So we are almost a self-employed team inside of a self-employed model.
Yeah.
What it means I can now do for my guys is add that extra layer of value in terms of all of our lead gen strategy. Boom, there it is. It's all there. You don't have to think about what works, what doesn't. Bang,
just do that. Yeah,
exactly. We've got an existing brand. We've got an office space. We've got social media done for them. We've got all the bits that people probably don't know about, worry about, don't know how to do it, feel like they're isolated. We now have that kind of branch where they're getting into production much faster than if they were just to go and do it on their own, basically. So we've now got 4 agents within the team. We are now ready to really kick on and expand next year. Put a lot of things into place this year, and I can now support multiple agents. And my role will then likely turn to coaching those agents to help them get into production, as opposed to selling myself. I'm going to move more towards the luxury market, so I can do fewer transactions, but still obviously generate a decent amount of income personally.
And income,
Then it'll be around sort of how can I help them to break into their markets and, use my experience to make them successful. And it's that whole success through others sort of mentality that doesn't need to be me doing the job, as long as everyone's kind of doing it to our standard.
I suppose the only question I'd ask about that is, so what you've created is basically a Keller Williams market center within a Keller Williams market center, by the sounds of things.
Pretty much, yeah, but with extra stuff on top. So obviously Keller provide an awful lot to the agents, but a lot of it is sort of, this is how you go and do it. Whereas what we provide is, this is just done for you. Don't worry about it. Go and do the fun stuff. Go meet people, go grow your network, go take on houses, go sell houses. Just do the fun, sexy bit at the beginning. Everything else is taken care of for you.
So it's like a leg up for them, rather than them just going, right, I'm a Keller Williams agent.
Yeah.
They're better. You'll give them a bit more support as a Lion Estates Keller Williams agent.
But they are still self-employed. They're still earning the majority of the fee, because I think that's important, so to be really transparent, my guys in the teams, obviously how the Keller splits work is, unless you hit your cap, you're earning 63% of the fee, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with my guys, they earn 50%.
50%.
So they're getting 13% less, but actually they're getting sales progression done for them. They've got some direct mail that's included within that for them. They've got their photography, marketing's included for them. They've got social media included for them, and they've got all of this lead gen stuff that they can do until their heart's content without having to think about it. So although they earn a smaller percentage, they're doing more transactions, and each agent that's now joined me, they get into production faster and faster and faster. The guy that joined us last May, who came from no property background whatsoever, he was in high-end car sales. His cap reset in May this year, capped in 2 months.
Wow.
Got 10 months worth of insane amounts of money. You're talking earning 5 figures every single month consistently.
Oh, that is good. Yeah, no. So, I mean, I suppose if you've got the knowledge as well of the Milton Keynes market, like that's going to help them, because the Keller Williams market center might not necessarily have that like broken down into specific areas. So that they'll give the sort of overall training, like Ignite and stuff like that. But I suppose it's not, it's not, as you say, tailored at all towards any particular area or anything like that.
The thing is as well is that what I've kind of learned with the guys, And this, not everyone is ambitious as you are, right? Not everybody wants to own a business. Not everyone wants their name above the door. Not everyone, but they do want to benefit from higher income and more time on their hands to spend with family and flexibility and all that sort of thing. And so there is a lot of people, and this is why I'm so passionate about doing this, is I guarantee you there is probably God knows how many people in traditional agency that would happily move across to self-employed, but they just don't want everything to be on their shoulders. And that's fine. That's not a problem. You see it all the time look at mortgage brokers, right? You got self-employed mortgage brokers within their brokerage. They're doing it, they're part of a larger team, they're earning percentage of the fee, but they don't have to worry about the compliance, they have to worry about, being part of the FCA regulations and whatever. They just want to deal with their clients and do it on their terms and earn the money that they want to earn.
Yeah.
And this is almost like a similar type of thing, whereas I know obviously the self-employed models are set up to make it less sort of stressful and less financially imposing to going out on your own, totally running your own business. But again, it's still very much a case of you do have support. Of course, you get support from obviously the market centers and the network and things like that. But it is still very much, you're pretty much working it out as you go, what works in your area, what's not. Whereas we're getting proper personal one-on-one. We're a team, we're a branch. Basically, we're in a way, we are a traditional
remotely. You're working all remotely though, right?
Well, they can do, but we've got an office, and that's where I'm sat now. We've got our own office premises. Everyone comes into where we've got space set up where you can record videos. We do training sessions. We've got the TV up here, so we've been watching the World Cup while working recently. We've got a big whiteboard wall. We're writing ideas down and lead gen. So we've got this space where you can come away from home. If you want to work from home, you work from home, but everyone's more productive when they're here together because we're all very much on the same mindset.
Yeah, you can share ideas and stuff. Absolutely. Like that.
Yeah. So it's always their choice. And this is the thing, this is the balance of running a team like this is, you kind of know what's best for them, but you can't manage them like they're staff because they're not staff. But so it's all about them almost self-discovering what's best for them, so that it's their decision rather than it be me saying, you guys have to be here during this, but between 9 and 11, you need to be in the office doing lead generation. That's not going to work. They're not going to do that. But I know that's what's best for them. So do you know what? I just do that myself. When they see my results, it's a case of, maybe if I did what
they might turn up.
Exactly. But it's got to be their decision.
Yeah. No, I get that. So do you have your own like Rightmove and everything? Is that all set up?
Yeah, got our own Rightmove account. We've got our own branded Zoopla on the market accounts going live from the 1st of January. So to all intents and purposes, in a roundabout way, we are very much like a normal standalone estate agency business, which is part of the Keller Williams network. It's kind of how my mind looks at it, because we are basically an agency where the staff are just self-employed rather than being employed like a normal high street office would be.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably, I would play devil's advocate. Do you need Keller Williams to do what you do?
No.
So why are you with Keller Williams if you don't need them?
Because like I sort of said earlier, I don't doubt that I could have built what I've built. We've literally so as a team, we've also done a certain result. Personally, I've just ticked over £1 million in fees agreed on a personal level since I started in April 2019, which is an insane amount of money and something that I never would have dreamed that I could have done. I don't doubt that I could have done that anyway without Keller, but I don't think I could have done it as fast as I have. And that's the thing for me. It's all about going faster. In the same way that we go out and tell our clients, it's not about what I charge you, it's about what you take home after the fee. I look at it the same way. And I know I'm not the finished article. I know there are things I'm very good at. I know there's things I'm rubbish at. And so being part of the Keller network means I get to be around people like you. We would never have met each other otherwise. I like to be able to collaborate with other agents. I like to learn from other agents, especially the agents over in the States. I think they're miles ahead of what we do. And rather than us trying to work it out for ourselves, we just look at what they do and just copy it. Funny enough, it tends to work over here because it's still people buying and selling homes. But for me, it's also about that, like you said earlier about, we've got 50 offices in London. Yeah, we all know, having worked in that kind of way of the way of that structure, those offices are never talking to each other.
They never speak to each other. They don't even know each other's name. They probably don't even know each other's names.
No. If you called up one of those branches and said, I've got a client, can I view this house? Absolutely not. You can't view it. That's our instruction. We've only had it on for a week. We're not letting any of you view it. And you kind of go, right, but you said to the client that you had all these offices. And so they're all competing. You're basically an island.
Yeah, because then you're going to have to split the commission. They don't want to, exactly. And the next are going to argue and blah, 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 blah.
But being able to work the way we do, it means that I can now help clients move house rather than sell. And this is, I think, the key difference on a service that we can offer, which is most agents can go out there and say, I can help you sell your house, but the rest is kind of up to you. And we know the challenges over the last couple of years has all been about low stock levels, right? So being able to sit down with somebody and say, yes, I can sell your house, but what are you doing onwards? Because that's probably where you're going to struggle the most. So what can I help you with? Who can I introduce you to? Are you staying locally, moving out of area? And so I've got clients I've referred to agents in. So Gary Bremner in the Cotswolds sold a £1.2 million barn, which I passed over to him. I got past a property back in just before COVID, actually, because I couldn't do anything during lockdown, from an agent in Canada who recommended me. That's part of our network. I've recently, so earlier this week, we passed something down to Paul Leslie, just outside of Ealing. I've literally just emailed an agent who I've never even heard of before, who's based just outside of Scarborough, because of one of my clients.
All Keller Williams agents. All Keller Williams.
But the thing for me, and this is for me where I'm very, I love what Keller stands for, but I'm not kind of cut me and I bleed KW, right? For me personally, it's not about the model that you're associated with. It's about the person. Each model is going to have good agents and bad agents. There's going to be agents that pop around to different ones and everyone's going to have different mindsets. I want to be surrounded by people who are very customer centric. That's all I care about. If I know you're going to look after them, and I love to be able to pass clients on to people that I know are going to offer the same standard of service as me. And so I would love it. And it's probably something that I will look into in the future. I think there should just be a self-employed agents network in the UK that you can subscribe to be a part of, where I don't care if you're at Keller or if you're at
EXP or whatever,
any of them. It doesn't matter.
Like not Purple Bricks, but
it's what I love about America. They have leagues out there, right? They have leagues you can physically
between staged agents, so you can see where you rank against all. That's really cool.
I love that, and
that's competition.
I want to refer. You know, the greatest respect. Say I had a client in your neck of the woods. If there's an agent at another self-employed agency model that's better than you, I'm referring it to that person.
No, I get that.
It's about the client, and I think that helps us to improve, because you are. I think when you're running your own business, you're in your own bubble, and your version.
What if I pay you?
But your kind of interpretation on what is good and what success looks like. This is one of the key things for me being a part of Keller. It wasn't until I went out to family reunion in 2019 to New Orleans, and you sit in a room with 10,000 estate agents, and you realize that is 5% of the Keller agents across the world. And there's only 4 places in the whole of the States big enough to host Keller events. And you realize how much of a small fish in a tiny pond you are, that you realize what else there is to achieve and what a real business looks like. You might look at successful as I earn 6 figures. That is what success looks like. You two did great, but this has really helped me to raise my ambitions and raise what my standards are. Because when you look at the agents that are turning over millions every single year, why can't that be you? You know, there's a lot of money in property, there really is. But for me, I want to do it the right way. And so Keller is my mindset coach, and mindset comes before everything. We all know that. Go out on evaluation. If your head's not in the right space, it doesn't matter what you say, what you do, you're not winning the instruction. And I think it helps keep you grounded. And for me, it is a win-win relationship. I provide a lot to them. I'm a good kind of ambassador for them. I'm a good example of what you could potentially go and become. But for me, I love being a part of this larger network. And like you mentioned earlier, the event we had in Leicester Square a couple of months back, I think was phenomenal. I think stuff like that.
It was good.
You're a one-man band on your own running your business. You don't have access to that.
Yeah, no, it was good to meet everyone, and I think we need to work more together. Completely. I think, because some of us don't even talk to each other, and despite the fact that we're in different market centers or whatever, you know, you're over here, you're over there. Like, if we just spoke to each other a bit more, then I think there's so much more referrals and leads we can get, and just provide a better service for the client as well.
Yeah.
You know, it shouldn't be like, oh, you know, they're Bromley, they're London Bridge, exactly. You know, we're competing.
Keep your referrals in your market center.
Yeah, just keep it within there. Don't talk to them. You know, they're you know, don't tell them how you do things. Like I think it should be like, okay, let's try to do the best job ever.
Yeah.
So the Keller Williams brand gets elevated.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the whole thing sort of moves up. But that's why I kind of chose to be a Keller Williams agent, because I felt that I would benefit from other people talking about the Keller Williams brand. Mm-hmm. So even if I'm not lead genning, someone else out there is.
Yeah.
So we've got like Louise Black, for instance, she's put loads of Christmas boards around town, and I'm like, that says KW. I'm a KW agent. Yes. So indirectly, I've actually benefited from her doing that. Even though I haven't had any people ring me, it's still out there.
Yeah.
Whereas if I had my own brand, like, I don't know, Josh Shinerock Estates or whatever, like, who's doing that for me? Mm-hmm. No one's sort of like helping me in the background. Even if I was part of Keller Williams as Josh Shinerock Estates or whatever, who's doing that for me? Who knows that? No one. Like, they're not, like, I'm having to rely on myself to do all that work to, you know, whereas Keller Williams have done it kind of, they've built up a bit of a brand.
Yeah.
Even though it's still quite early stages and not proven.
I can almost feel you leading up to the question of, so why did you do Line Estates rather than Dominic Marcel at Keller?
Well, I've already asked you that, but I think I think I asked you that in a different way. But yeah, could you answer that? I mean, if you want to answer that as well, that would be good.
To be honest with you, it's the idea with me becoming an agent in the first place was I was always meant to be opening up a Milton Keynes market center, and being at Prime, the biggest challenge to bringing agents in and recruiting agents at the time was very much, sounds great, can you show me someone that's doing it and doing it really well? And at the time, you know, it was 2018, there wasn't, you know, no disrespect to the agents that were there, but even they're in a mission, they'll be saying, yeah, we weren't really cooking back then. And so I kind of had this epiphany, and I spoke to Ben and I said, look, if I'm going to go and open up this Milton Keynes center, I need an agent in Milton Keynes that's doing it and doing it really well, so I can use them as an example. With the greatest respect, getting an agent cooking down in Mayfair, that's not going to be an example to them. They may as well be on Mars, for God's sake. It's a totally different.
No, it's completely different.
I kind of had that epiphany of, well, you know, you need to
start from scratch
on, and you need to go and be the agent and do it. But my mindset at the time was, if I basically go Dominic Marcel, Keller Williams, and start doing really well, and then I open up a market center and say to agents, come and join, will agents think, well, I'm in competition with you because you're already trading as Keller and all this? So I literally set this up as almost like a disguise, so that I could kind of hide behind the brand rather than it being about me personally, because I wanted to make sure that when we did open up a market center, that agents would benefit from my experience, but wouldn't feel like they were competing against me personally for business. If that makes sense. It probably doesn't, right? Which is this is just where my limiting beliefs were at the time, was rather than, I thought I was building the Dominic Marcel brand, whereas what I would have been doing is building the Keller Williams brand. I mean, we still brand everything as Line Estates Keller Williams, and we don't hide away from the fact that we're part of them. We have clients ask us what that means, and we talk about it.
The partnership is a partnership. Yeah,
absolutely. We're really passionate about it. We're proud to say that we're a part of Keller. We really, really are. We're not using Keller as a platform to open up an estate agency business on the cheap. You know, that's not the idea. We are an integrated member of the Keller Williams community. We just happen to be a powered by brand where we've got our own business, essentially.
Because I'd assume that, you know, within your team, because you're all Milton Keynes, there's going to be some competition between you guys anyway. Like, even if you're Keller Williams or Line Estates or whatever, like you're all probably having some sort of crossover, or unless you're setting sort of boundaries up and stuff like that, I suppose. But
within the team, it's easier to manage because we are all we don't have territories. There's no, if this comes on in this patch, it's yours, because we believe it's about the person, not the
You'll have a grown-up conversation about it. Yeah.
But we'll collaborate with each other. We've got splits set up where we'll pass things over. I might take something on because the client, say for example, I have a client comes to me because I've sold their mum's house, but it's in one of my other agents' kind of farm areas where they're doing all their lead gen and trying to be the go-to agent in. I'll take it on. I'll represent the seller because they've come to me.
Yeah, your client.
But I'll say to that agent, you do the viewings on it. You deal with the buyers. You do the viewings, because when that person moves into it, you can have the relationship with that person living in your area. So and it was quite funny actually. A house came on the market last week in Milton Keynes with Keller Williams, and I was like, who the hell is that? Because that's not us. And it was a Keller Williams agent that's part of our market center, and funnily enough, it's the Keller Williams agent that I brought into Keller Williams.
Wow.
And I didn't look at that and go, oh my God, they're selling stuff in my patch. It's not about that. I looked at it and said, I can't believe he didn't tell me he was putting this instruction on to see if we have any buyers for his client. I was more annoyed about, why aren't you seeing if we can help you, rather than just kind of, but everyone's different, but there will be times where, do you know what? I'm going to rephrase that. If we get to the point where we're all stepping on each other's toes, well, then do you know what? We've got
that's a good problem. It's a good problem to have. Yeah, it's a good problem to have. It's just interesting, like how you would sort of work in the same area and having to do obviously the splits and stuff like that, when they've already obviously giving away 50%, and then you're giving away a split after that. It's like, or another like 10%, so they got 40%. So it's like, it's just cutting into the kind of like the bottom line essentially.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just how that's going to shape up next year when transactions are down, like are going to be sort of slowing up. Is that going to be enough?
Challenge.
Like
big challenge for a lot of.
You're going to have to sort of do something like mega, kind of like increase your market share basically to make up the difference, I guess. And it's going to be even harder for that, because of the bigger splits. Because I'm thinking about that even myself, and I get the better split. I've come close to capping, but I've never capped. So it's like, and I think I'm a good agent. Like, I've done reasonably well, but I've never broken that threshold. And I feel like, it's just going to be even harder next year unless I somehow change what I'm doing. And I don't know, just work smarter. I really don't know. I think we're running out of time, but I did want to ask you, TikTok. Yeah. I saw you got 1.5 million views on a video, and that wasn't like the only one. There was one at like 1 million, and then you've got a couple at like 500,000.
Yeah,
like that's mega. But is that actually translating into leads? Like, is there tangible leads there?
We get so many buyers through TikTok. We have people call us up and register us, and when we say, "Oh, where did you get our details from?" I saw you on TikTok, and it is bonkers. We have so many people. We've got viewings booked off that house of 1.5 million. That's actually my house. That was mine and Sarah's home that we sold end of last year. So that is actually our home. It's just very coincidentally got the most amount of views on it. But even recently, we've just been instructed by Taylor Wimpey, a builder up our neck of the woods, to sell some plots for them before the end of year. And we've just put those onto TikTok, and we've got leads through there for buyers. And I think it was very easy to ignore TikTok. I think TikTok last year and probably early this year was a bit more, I suppose, glamour, shall we say. It was nice to be. It was more of like a braggy,
like an Instagram-y kind of thing.
But let's be honest, buyers, we weren't short of buyers, whereas the market we're going into, it's surprising how many buyer leads you get from TikTok. So it is definitely, I think it depends on how you do it. You will have seen, obviously, with ours, we're very much, it's video tour. There's
property focused.
Yeah. There's not the person walking around and, doing this type thing, in each room or whatever. It's just the property slow motion panning in each room. And that
nice videography. Yeah. With some music.
More stuff, but we wanted to keep it very much like that, but it's massive, mate. Honestly, it's insane. I mean, we all know what it's like. You lose hours on TikTok before you know it. You open TikTok and before you know it's next Tuesday. It's just.
Do you get weirdos from it?
Not really. You get some people that make snidey comments, but they're obviously, you're always going to get that. I think the key with TikTok is engaging. You can't just post a video out there. And Sarah, obviously, my fiance, looks after all of our social media, does a brilliant job on it. And so she does those videos, she posts those videos. What she's very good at is when people comment,
replies to them
constantly, which is why our engagement is so high and we get such good reach on it. So
yeah. Because what I found, I was listening to one of like Gary V's podcasts, and he was saying like he got a guy who was he's interviewing was like a social media chap, like quite like really experienced guy.
Yeah.
And he was saying, well, what's the number one tip for TikTok? And he was saying, talking over the green screen app in within TikTok, like talk over a green screen. So you've got your face in front of, say, a property or a subject or whatever you're talking about, and that adds context to obviously what you're talking about, but also you've got you got your face in there, so people will engage with that because I think the human brain, if it sees a face, it kind of engages more with that than it does with an object. It's just how we're wired. So when I saw your TikTok popping off, I was like, like he's making like 1.5 million views just on properties, and they're nice properties, don't get me wrong, but it's not like they're not
multi-million-pound houses.
It's not like Michael Bailey stuff. It's like
it's just normal everyday people houses that are just presented nicely.
It's just presented, and you've got obviously the viral music in the background, so maybe it's hitting some sort of algorithm
that's the big key, isn't it? You always just check what's trending. And make sure that your music length is the same length as the video. It's nothing worse than the music stopping 10 seconds before the end of the video.
So if it's a minute video, a minute TikTok or whatever.
Take 10 seconds to what's trending, what's this length of music, bang it on.
It might just suddenly hit the algorithm. Because I want to start doing more of that. And I think that's going to probably help next year as well, because, if we've got to think outside the box to get more properties or get more, if there's less buyers around,
you're gonna have more time. This is more time to think. Currency, and this is we're all working our arse off to try and get more time in our personal lives, right? It's the whole point. So we are getting time back in quieter markets is an absolute gift. It's just not mistaking leverage for luxury, making sure you fill that time with really good, skillful, all the things you're gonna. I would do this, but I've not had time. There's no excuses next year. Next year is very much that you either sink or swim.
No, I definitely see that. And you're right. It's only gonna leave the people that are actually like in this for the long haul. Really, it's just the people that are just here for a quick quick buck or whatever. It's just not gonna work.
No.
We have to work we're gonna have to work our asses off to like make the same amount of money, basically. Hopefully it's not like too bad. I'm hoping that it will just fix itself somehow after Christmas. When I come back off Christmas, it's like, it's back to normal, like how it was like 6 months ago. But I have a feeling it's not going to be as simple as that. So we'll see how we get on. But it's been really good to talk to you, and thank you for being so honest about like everything. And it has really made me think about what more I can do out, maybe not just by myself, but like leveraging off other agents, and perhaps like more of the social media side as well. Because that's going to be, I think that's going to really be helpful in going into next year. So definitely. All right. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you if they've got any properties to sell in Milton Keynes coming up soon?
But I mean, everywhere, to be honest.
Lion Estates, isn't it?
With Lion Estates on Instagram, Facebook, but we're also, all of the guys have got their own personal life page as well. So me personally, Dominic Marcel at Lion Estates. I've got, again, Instagram, Facebook account, Google, everywhere, TikTok, as you heard. Like, you can't not find us. All you got to do is just pop my name into Google and ignore the weird stuff that comes up, and
just go for Lion Estates. All right, lovely. All right, well, appreciate that, and I will speak to you soon. Cheers.
Top man. Thanks, Josh.
No, that's right. Cheers.